Hello, friends! Norway is one of the most underrated travel meccas in the world. Despite periods of 24-hour polar nights, Norwegians are consistently ranked as one of the happiest people on the planet. With breathtakingly beautiful fjords, spectacular cliffs, and countless natural waterfalls and lakes, it's nothing short of a masterpiece of nature. Today, we'll take you on a journey to discover why Norwegians are the happiest people on the planet. Why you must visit this magnificent land to find out more. Our Norwegian tour began in the small town of Buda, located on the Arctic Circle. Early in the morning, we wandered around the town exploring. The streets were very quiet in the early morning, with only the sound of the cold wind gently blowing through the houses and the occasional whispers of the locals. Walking around, it really did feel like you'd been forgotten in time. We then set off to tackle Sorsheim, the world's strongest and most treacherous saltwater whirlpool. This dangerous natural wonder used to be dismissed by fishermen as a sea monster made by the Vikings. And just hearing the legend is graphic. We started our journey by viewing a local family of eagles. The scene was truly stunning. Dozens of eagles hovered in the sky, spreading their wings in a dominating manner. It was a rare opportunity to witness their power. After seeing the eagles, we took a boat to Sorsheim. The boat ride on the water was really thrilling and exciting. Sometimes you will suddenly feel the power of the rapids, and the boat is pushed and swayed all at once, with a bit of eerie tension. It felt like the boat had very little power to break free from the grip of this superb whirlpool. In all seriousness, the experience of coming to Sorsheim was really mind-blowing and gave me a sense of nature's purest power to kick off the trip. After finishing up in Sorsheim, we hiked through town and took a 3-hour ferry ride to the Lofoten Islands. As the ferry navigated the sea, it was at times calm as a mirror, reflecting the silhouettes of snow-covered mountains in the distance. At other times the waves rose and rolled in white. The sea breeze blew on my face, cool and very comfortable. After arriving in Lofoten, we rented a car for 10 minutes to the town of Or, where we spent the night, ready to continue exploring the next day. On the second day of our Norway trip, we set out to explore the picturesque Lofoten Islands. This is the first place most people think of when they think of Norway, right? Known for its breathtaking scenery and 24 hours of sunshine in the summer, Lofoten is an iconic destination. There's no need to rush to take photos here. You can capture stunning images at any time. Early in the morning, we started our stroll in the fishing village of Orstown, mainly to learn about the local dried fish industry. This industry is very important in the history of Lofoten, having existed as far back as the Viking Age. We walked into the local dried fish workshop. In the open space outside, rows of dried cod were neatly drying, and under the sunshine, we could still smell the faint aroma of dried fish. The owner of the workshop enthusiastically introduced the production process to us. From the skills of catching cod to the details of controlling the temperature and humidity when drying, every step is very delicate. The dried fish here is exported all over the world, with Europe accounting for 50%, North America for 20%, and Asia for 15%, which is really remarkable. Afterwards, we drove 20 minutes to the city of Lane and started the challenge of the classic Lane Bergen hiking trail. Although the route is difficult, with some sections requiring hands and feet to climb, the views along the way are definitely worth it. At first, the trail was gentle, but as the elevation increased, the trail became steeper and straighter, and it didn't take long before I was drenched in sweat. However, the views along the way provided us with the greatest motivation. The turquoise blue fjord glistened in the sunlight, the snow-capped mountains stood like guardian spirits in the distance, and the staggering yellow fishing huts at the foot of the mountain exuded a strong fairy tale atmosphere. The moment we climbed up to the top of the mountain to the observation deck, all our tiredness dissipated. The whole city of Lyn was in full view, and the magnificent scenery was something that photos could not record. After walking through Lyn Bergen, we had a delicious lunch at a cafe in town, took a short break, and then drove another hour and a half north, with stunning Norwegian scenery all along the way. When we arrived at Skogsamden on our first stop, we sat in the car and looked out and couldn't tell if we were in Hawaii or Norway. This pristine white sandy beach was so fine and soft to step on that it seemed even more precious in stark contrast to the mountainous terrain we had traveled through earlier. Many photos were taken here and each one was as beautiful as a postcard. After leaving Skogsamden, we drove another half hour to the picturesque town of Nusfjord. This very charming village is situated next to a tributary of the fjord and is famous for its yellow fishing huts. Rows and rows of yellow huts are staggered along the seashore, and the color is very healing against the turquoise blue water. The residents of the village live a leisurely life, fishing in the daytime and returning in the evening to dry their catch. When they saw us, they greeted us warmly, and the simplicity was great. We walked around the town slowly, listening to the sound of the waves and looking at the fishing houses in the sunset. We really didn't want to leave. After a short stay at Nusfjord, we felt tired but satisfied inside and headed to the hotel where we stayed to rest. Despite being physically tired, we were still mentally energized from exploring Lofoten all day, and lay in bed reminiscing about the sights we had seen during the day. The first part of our third day was a hike up Mount Flåya in Sus, which was probably the toughest hike of our trip to Lofoten. At first, we traveled through thick woods, with the sunlight pouring through the gaps in the leaves, creating dappled light and shadows. The air was so fresh that it was quite pleasant to walk. However, the higher we went, the sparser the trees became. The steeper the path became, and some sections even had no obvious steps. So we could only step on the muddy ground and walk hard. Coupled with the weather of the extreme day, even at noon, the sun was still very strong. We did not walk for a long time before our mouths were dry, and several times we were tired enough to want to stop. But after encouraging each other, we still insisted on it. After climbing to the top, the 360-degree panoramic shock really cannot be described in words. The beauty of the North Lofoten Islands was in full view. The rolling hills looked like a giant dragon coiled on the sea. The turquoise blue water surrounded the archipelago, forming a beautiful fjord. The white waves lapped at the shoreline reefs, emitting a pleasant sound. The sunlight of the polar day illuminated the whole archipelago, and all the scenery was clearly visible and magnificent. It was worthwhile to be tired in order to enjoy the view. After the hike, we drove 30 minutes to the city of Huntingdon Bay to visit what we thought was the most beautiful soccer stadium in the world. Surrounded by mountains and seawater, the turquoise grass of this soccer stadium looks like a piece of emerald set between the mountains and the sea, which is really very beautiful. Although we only saw it from a distance, the beauty of the stadium has been deeply engraved in our hearts. Seriously, we fell in love with Lofoten Islands. Everywhere we went, we were amazed by the nature's work and the picturesque scenery that surrounded us, which would take your breath away. We thought the photos were beautiful enough, but after experiencing it for ourselves, we realized that the real thing is 100 times more beautiful than the photos. It was a superb trip, but we really wished we could have stayed in Lofoten for a few more days. After that, we headed to Oslo to start a new day. When we arrived in Oslo, we started off with a super delicious Norwegian breakfast that was really amazing. There was jam bread with brown cheese, awesome Wesley, and smoked salmon with cheese, and everything was delicious. We later learned that Norwegian hotel chains compete annually on the quality of their breakfasts, so it's no wonder that the breakfasts at hotels all over the world are world class. Come to Norway, must try it. After eating this champion breakfast, we went to experience the much-needed Norwegian sauna. After 2 exhausting days of hiking, a soak in a sauna is the perfect way to relax. Let me tell you, I've tried saunas in the US before, but the temperature wasn't even close to this high. Here, I just went in for 2 minutes and it was too hot for me to stand. My body was sweating all over. And then I jumped into the cold pool next to it to cool down. The feeling of alternating hot and cold was so exciting at first that I couldn't help but scream. But after a really very comfortable, relaxed body, relaxation effect is very amazing. Come to Norway, must experience this program, will really make people. The day after the triple warmer, we felt superb and full of energy. Afterwards, we set off to explore Oslo, a city that is both modern and laid back. We took our time wandering the streets, admiring the local architecture, stopping for an occasional coffee and having a full day. In the late afternoon, we arrived at Oslo Central Station for our overnight sleeper train to Stavanger. To be honest, it was the first time we had both been on a sleeper train, and we were both nervous and excited, feeling as if we were realizing our childhood dream of spending the night on a train. We turned off the lights and tried to get some sleep. The facilities of the sleeper train were not luxurious, but very clean and tidy. We lie on the bunk, listening to the wheels and railroad track collision clunk sound, slowly sleepy. The train was going to take 8 hours and 50 minutes. So we hoped to get 8 hours of sleep and arrive in Stavanger the next day refreshed. Once we arrived in Stavanger, we went for an early morning stroll through the beautiful city center. The architecture is very unique and the streets are very clean. Then, we went and rented a car to get ready to head to the famous Preacher's Rock hiking trail. Did you all know? This place used to be the set of the movie Mission Impossible 6, where Atom used to do his thrilling rock climbing scenes. As a result, it has become one of the most popular hiking trails in Norway, attracting many tourists to come here. The hiking trail at Buda is about 8 kilometers long and takes 4 to 6 hours round trip, which is moderately difficult. We started from the starting point, and the trail was challenging to walk along as it was sometimes gentle, sometimes steep and straight, with parts of it being loose sandstone paths, and parts of it being granite rocky areas. However, the signs along the way are very clear, so there is no need to worry about getting lost. We finally made it to the top after climbing for about 4 hours. The view from the top was truly breathtaking. At our feet was the winding Lasser Fjord. The turquoise blue water was like a ribbon winding between the mountains. The snow-covered mountains in the distance were glittering under the sunlight. It really did feel a bit thrilling, though, as we walked along the cliffs to the final lookout. We were just a few steps away from what looked like a cliff thousands of feet deep, and every step required extra caution and an adrenaline rush. But seriously, it was super crowded. Just look at the line of people behind us taking pictures. People really aren't kidding when they say it's crowded. You have to queue up for photos, and you have to overtake cars all the time on the trail. So, you really need to be mentally prepared before coming here. At the end of the hike, we went downhill and had some super delicious kebabs. Seriously, there is nothing in the world that tastes as good as kebabs after a long hike. They are so satisfying. After lunch, we drove 4 hours through the picturesque Norwegian countryside to the city of Ade at first. We had little interest in the drive, thinking it might be boring. But the scenery along the way made us completely fall in love with the land. Each section of the road offered a different view, alternating fjords, snow-capped mountains, and forests. We stopped the car many times just to admire the magnificent nature around us. And the drive was arguably the most beautiful road trip of our lives. After arriving in Ada, we had an early dinner at the hotel and were super nervous because the next day we were going to take on the longest hiking trail of our lives, the Troll's Tongue. To our surprise, We woke up to heavy rain and the weather forecast said it was going to be cloudy and rainy all day. Honestly, I was completely drained and just hoped that the scenery along the way would compensate. And with the help of my gear, I might be able to stay a little dry. After a delicious Norwegian breakfast, we braved the rain and made our way to the start of Trollstang. The Trollstang hike is a 28 kilometers round trip from the P to parking lot. Even if the road is in good condition, it usually takes 6 to 8 hours. For experienced travelers, it takes about 4 hours. Coupled with today's rain, the road became muddy and slippery, and some sections required stepping on stones to cross the river. It was really very hard to get wet from the cold rain. The hiking process was very difficult. The rain made the already difficult path even more slippery. Every step needed to be careful, and the physical strength was consumed very quickly. Several times we were so tired that we wanted to give up, but encouraged each other and gritted our teeth and persevered. After more than 6 hours of walking, we finally saw the spectacular Trollstang Rock. Luckily, the clouds cleared just as we were taking pictures. Although I was very nervous, it was worth it to see such a beautiful view. Standing on the Trollstang Rock, with the cliffs hundreds of meters deep under our feet, overlooking the fjords and forests below, was a breathtakingly beautiful experience that we will never forget. The experience gave us a deep appreciation of what a precious gift it is to have a healthy body. It also gave us a sense of the intense passion that wells up within us when we overcome our fears and break out of our comfort zones. In retrospect, we are very glad that we decided to go, even though we wanted to give up that morning. After leaving Trollstang, we drove an hour and a half to Woolsey, where we spent the night. Early in the morning on day 5, we wandered around Voss exploring the city. And after a leisurely morning in Vosges, we took an hour-long bus ride to the beautiful town of Flåm. Frohm is home to the famous Frohm Railroad, said to be one of the most beautiful railroads in the world. The town is full of charming little stores that made us feel as if we were in a fairy tale with a great sense of atmosphere. After shopping, we boarded the Frohm Railroad train. A sweet reminder, if you're coming, make sure you take the seat on the right. Although the scenery is very beautiful on both sides, the right side has a better view, especially from the direction of Frohm Station to Myrtle Station. At 20.2 kilometers long, with an elevation drop of 866 meters and a maximum gradient of 5.5%. This railroad is one of the steepest standard gauge railroads in the world. Today it serves the tourism industry almost exclusively and is Norway's third most popular tourist attraction. The train climbs gently up the steep hillside, traveling at a speed of about 40 kilometers per hour. The scenery outside the window changes constantly. From the turquoise waters of the fjords to the waterfalls and streams of the mountains. From the dense forest vegetation to the open alpine meadows, each frame is like a carefully painted oil painting. The train also stops briefly at several viewpoints during its journey, allowing visitors to get off and take photos, which is very thoughtful. While the scenery along the Frohm Railway is really beautiful, it didn't seem particularly stunning compared to our journey by car or bus. However, as a means of transportation to our next stop, the journey was very pleasant and leisurely indeed. Our final stop was Bergen. We had breakfast at our hotel in Bergen, which was really so rich, especially the waffles with jam and brown cheese. A strange-looking combination that tasted delicious. After breakfast, we set out to explore the picturesque Bergen and bought many Norwegian souvenirs. Unfortunately, the Grey Fjord cable car was closed for maintenance. So we headed to Frøy Peak instead to enjoy the magnificent sunset and panoramic views of Bergen. Standing on Frøy Peak, the sun slowly set, coloring the clouds in the sky red. The whole city was enveloped in a warm glow that was beautiful to behold. As we watched the sunset and reflected on this special journey, the beauty of Norway was truly breathtaking. The magnificent fjords, rolling hills, breathtaking cliffs and hiking trails, and the resilient Norwegian people all come together to make up our beloved country. According to the World Happiness Report released in 2025, Norway ranked 7th in the world with flying colors, joining Nordic countries such as Denmark, Iceland and Sweden at the top of the happiness index list. After this trip, we finally understand why Norwegians are one of the happiest groups in the world. For Norwegians, being close to nature is not a luxury, but an everyday way of life. They can drive to the outskirts of the forest on weekends to hike and feel the fresh air. They can take their families to the beach in the summer evening to fish and enjoy the parent-child time. They can also put on ski suits and go skiing on snowy mountains on snowy days in winter to experience the speed and passion. This kind of close contact with nature can not only ease the pressure of work, but also let a person completely relax body and mind. In addition, Norway has a comprehensive social welfare system. Citizens can enjoy free education and medical services, and receive a generous pension after retirement. They do not need to worry about the trivialities of life, and can focus more on their favorite things. On the streets of Norway, it is rare to see a rush of office workers. They work at a relatively slow pace, with fixed working hours and very little overtime. So they have enough time to spend with their families and enjoy life after work. And this work-life balance is really very desirable. We also found that Norwegians have a very optimistic and open-minded attitude towards life. They don't go overboard with materialistic pleasures, but pay more attention to the quality of life. Whether in a cafe in Oslo or a small restaurant in Bergen, you can see locals leisurely drinking coffee and chatting. Their calm mindset is really contagious. Traveling is one of the most fulfilling experiences in life. We are so grateful to have had the opportunity to visit this amazing country and appreciate the little blessings that are integrated into our lives even more. The entire country, even each of its nationals, exudes a sense of balance that resonated strongly with us. The variety of experiences we had on our trip made us truly understand why Norwegians are known as the happiest people on Earth. If you have the chance, we highly recommend that you go to Norway and experience the unique charm of this land for yourself. Because only by experiencing it can you truly feel it. Finally, thank you for watching this video. If you like our content, liking and subscribing is our biggest support. More exciting travel content is in the pipeline. Have a great day.